So, hi Amy, thanks for joining us. Do you want to quickly introduce yourself and explain what it is you do?
Yes, hi Jamie, thanks for having me. Well, my name is Amy von Arend and I'm a journalist. And right now, I'm commentating the women's game and so on.
And so, we've been talking about the agreements between Burnley and TikTok to stream their matches, and then the deal with DAZN, UEFA, and YouTube to stream the Women's Champions League live around the world for free. So, this is a big deal for women's football in terms of exposure.
It's groundbreaking, to be honest. It's so important for a team like Burnley. They're not even in second division, so it's massive for them, and I'm sure it's going to increase their exposure, but as well, obviously, the revenues, the money, and it's a cycle. So more money, more investment, you have more opportunities. So it's so important, and obviously for the Women's Champions League, the zone, that's that's unbelievable, and it's a problem media coverage for the women's sport. Not especially in Spain. I mean, there's some top teams like Atletico Madrid. You weren't able to see some of their games, and this is a team that is one of the best in Europe. Obviously, Barca, well, they have their own platform, so they stream all of those. But at the same time, I mean, there's some top teams. Real Madrid as well do their own coverage, but it has to be better. It has to be better if we want to increase the sport and get more attention to it. But definitely, what DAZN have done, it's groundbreaking. It's a game changer for women's football because now, for the first time, everything is going to be covered. Well, until now, it was some games yes, some games no. So it's important for little girls and little boys to put the TV on and be able to see women's football live because I mean, lots of the footballers now, the women's footballers, when you tell them who was your idol when you were younger, they all say men because they say I didn't know women's football existed. I didn't know it was a thing. So it's important that the little girls and little boys know that it does exist and you can become a footballer.
Yes, that's really important, and in terms of bringing you know, bringing it to a bigger platform, and so that like you say, youngsters can see uh, and create these new heroes in their lives and these new idols that they can look up to. Do you think that then these kind of new platforms, TikTok, okay, YouTube's a bit older than TikTok, but it's still relatively new. Do you think that's the way for emerging teams and emerging sports to kind of get more exposure? You see, if we talk about, I don't know, Man City and Everton women's matches broke records last weekend on BBC with the Women's Super League. But those viewing figures are comparable to the Burnley Nottingham Forest match that was streamed on TikTok. And like you say, they're not even Division Two. So do you think this is a way now then for emerging teams and emerging sports and emerging competitions to get more exposure that they wouldn't have otherwise?
Definitely, it has to be easy um, for a fan to watch a game. Whenever you make it difficult for them, so you have to go into this link and then something, da, 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 then people don't watch it. So I mean, YouTube, everyone knows YouTube. It's easy access. So and as well, the cost of YouTube and these platforms is very small for them. Well, it's to do a TV broadcast production is a lot more expensive. So it has to be easy, and right now it has to be cheap for these platforms to want to do it. Because right now it's true that the women's game it's boosting now, but it doesn't bring obviously the revenue that the men's does. So it has to be.
Oh, the audio's cut off. I don't know if it's me or you.
Shit.
I can hear you again now.
Hold on. Hello.
Hello, I can hear you now.
I
You hear
can't hear
me?
you
Oh, fuck. Hello?
now.
I don't know if that
Yes,
was my end or
yes.
your end. I've got like a
Uh,
hacked together audio setup here to record the
mm,
interview, so I'm sorry.
no problem.
Um, and where were we at? So yeah, you were talking about the ease of easy to watch and easy to broadcast and produce.
Yeah, so it has to be easy for the companies and like YouTube and this, and it hasn't and not be very costly because of hold on, where were we? I can't remember
Sorry,
now.
Amy.
Okay, yeah, no. Okay, so why don't you just do the question again, and I'll just do it. So
Well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to edit it together because I want to pursue a little bit more on that because I think that was quite a good point. So I was asking you about if this is the way for emerging teams, emerging sports, emerging competitions to get more exposure, but also thinking in terms of cost. You know, YouTube, TikTok, fans watching these matches, there's no subscription costs. I would imagine, and you touched on it, that it's lower costs for the teams or the competitions to stream to these platforms rather than putting together a whole TV broadcast.
Exactly. It has to be for the fans. It has to be easy to watch. So platforms like YouTube, TikTok, and as well for the young generation. You know, my mum probably doesn't know what TikTok is, but for us younger generation, it is. And it's so easy.
Thank you for counting me in the younger generation.
Exactly. I'm putting us in. But it's just easy with your phone. You know, you don't need a TV. You don't need, and you can watch it anywhere. You know, you can be on the train and just pop your tablet, your phone out and watch it. It has to be accessible for the fans, because when you have to stream a link and then go here and then go that and pay, well, you know, it won't go anywhere. And as well, for these platforms, it's cheap, because putting it in a TV broadcast production is a lot more costly. So it has to be for these companies as well. As the women's game isn't bringing a lot of revenue right now, it can't cost them much money. And so I think for YouTube, TikTok, and all that, it's going to be a basic production, but it's better than nothing, definitely.
Do you think it's a win-win-win-win then? It's a win for the teams, a win for the competition, a win for the platform, and a win for the fans?
100%. When women's footballers ask for equality, they're not expecting to earn the same as the men. When they talk about equality, they're talking about having the same conditions, the same facilities. You know, there's lots of first division teams in Spain that play on turf, artificial turf. So it's having all these conditions. So, well, it's all a cycle. If you have better conditions, you'll have better players. If you have better players, you'll have better games. If you have better games, you'll have more people interested in it. If you have more people interested in it, it's going to be more money. So it's a cycle. And obviously, it all starts with being, you know, to be able to watch it easily, the games.
I think you've kind of answered everything we were looking for. That was really nice about the conditions and the cycle of, you know, increase everything.
Well, it's this. I mean, they're not hoping to earn what Messi earns. You know, they know that the women's game doesn't bring as much money as the men's. But what they're asking for is the same facilities. And for example, teams like Barca, Manchester City, Real Madrid, you know, these top teams have invested a lot in having good gyms and everything, and they share it with the men, and that's very important. When you make the distinction of, okay, the men's gym is this one, the women's gym is this one, it's not going to be the same machines, the same everything. So yeah, I think it's important to make it all equal, so the women's game can grow. Because I mean, we saw it during the lockdown. I mean, for example, there was an Arsenal player. She was injured and she asked for her club for a bike, and they said they've all gone to the men, and she was like, well, I need to recover. So in the end, she put on Instagram a post saying, anyone has a bike I could use. And you know, she's a professional player both for England and Arsenal, and she's asking on Instagram if anyone can lend her bike. You know, and we have the case now of Rayo Vallecano. All the players have been doing all the preseason without even contracts. You know, it's all these things that it's already difficult enough. So you know, and we're talking about Rayo Vallecano, that right now they're not in a good position, but until now they were playing Champions League. They were one of the top teams in Spain. So yeah, basically.
So to
It's
contrast that,
for
then,
me.
like you're saying, you're talking about one of the top teams in Spain, and then contrasting that to Burnley, who are, they're a third division team in England. That kind of step then for them to go onto TikTok could bring them in more sponsors, and they can start doing these, in air quotes, basic things, such as providing their teams with the basic facilities, the same conditions as the men's team, all these kind of things that you would expect as a professional football player.
Exactly, 100%. And I think England, in that sense, have moved forward a lot faster than, for example, Spain with the broadcasting. I mean, you can't. So in England, what they have, the WSL, they have a platform called the FA Player, and they stream all the games and lots of the second division ones as well. So it's as well an app, easy access, free for everyone outside of the UK. So it's perfect. Here, there's only maybe 2 games a week that you can watch in Spain, 2, 3 maybe.
Yeah, in fact, I think it's easier to watch Spanish women's football in England than it is in Spain,
Yeah,
because they have the La Liga Iberdrola on BT Sport, and they have I think the French League One women's on BT Sport as well. So
exactly. And for the first time, I believe that Sky Sports and also BBC have got an agreement to broadcast WSL games.
Yep.
So last weekend, for the first time, a women's game was put in the principal Sky channel. So you would put Sky on, and the first thing you saw was a women's game. So someone who's just here in the afternoon, not too sure what I want to do, I'll just put it on, and you see a women's game, and they the level of the women's game is increasing so much. You see these team play, and it's unbelievable. So but that comes with having good coaches come if you invest. So as I was saying before, it's this cycle that if you have the good coaches like the men's side have, well, the players will improve. I mean, there was a goalkeeper in England. She was in the national team, and she said that until a few years ago, she hadn't had a goalkeeper coach for both club and national team. So, she was training with just the players. So by that, you're not. They've always said that women's goalkeepers aren't very good. Why? Because they didn't have coaches.
Yeah.
I mean, you learn by yourself. You learn by players, kicking balls at you, and you're trying to save them. But once they've had coaches, we've seen that they are good. Of course, they're good.
Of course, it makes sense, doesn't it? It's the gender can't be that much of a difference. There must be other factors involved.
Exactly.
And a lot of that seems to be ultimately financial at this point. And so I think it's important that these teams are looking for other sources of exposure and of revenue.
Exactly, and right now it's true. If a team invests in the women's game, right now, probably the revenue won't be great, but in a few years it will be. For example, Barca, I believe that the women's team is the only team that for Stanley, like Stanley's
the tool manufacturer, right?
Exactly. Yes, but they are the
shirt sponsors.
Yeah, the sponsors. Sorry. So Stanley are the sponsors. So, and with that money, the money that Stanley gives to Barca, they are able to hold up the whole team so that they don't cost Barca a single penny. And I believe it's the only sport in the Barca, in the club, that don't lose money. So
Wow.
it's all this nonsense of women's is investing in the sport. It's costly, and it's not true. I mean, with the money Stanley gives Barca, they're able to support the whole women's team.
So that team is completely self-sufficient thanks to the sponsorship agreement. And then I guess you combine that with the Zone have kind of offered that with UEFA. They've committed to 4 years, allowing them to broadcast it around the world for free. And UEFA have increased the prize money as well in the Champions League. So all these things are kind of that step forward in that sense.
Yes, and to be honest, that's thanks to as well teams like Olympique Lyonnais. They were one of the first teams to really invest in the women's game. And and therefore, like, the level was unmatched. The 7 times Champions League winner, they won the last 5 consecutively. So what was the problem? It was a bit boring. Why? Because Lyon invested. So is Lyon the problem, or is the other teams the problem? The same here happens in Spain for Barca. So Barca, they just walked all over the league last season. Oh, how boring. Well, it's not Barca's problem for investing in the women's team. So yes, they're going to get talents from abroad and homegrown talents as well, because they always say, they sign the best players out there. Is that a problem? I mean, they are investing in the team. Exactly, they are investing in the team. So if the prize money is bigger, well, the clubs as well be able to invest more in the women's side. So again, and I think credit to where it's due, it's to Lyon to stepping the game up and saying the level is here. If you want to match us, put the money.
Yeah, they've dragged everybody else with them.
And the training, exactly. If Lyon didn't at the time and they were just a normal team, I believe women's football would be, well, it wouldn't be where it is right now.